Welcome to Chapter 9 for exercise programming for special populations. We're going over cognitive conditions and disorders. So cognitive disorders carry greater likelihood of obesity, in part contributed to by caretakers without sufficient knowledge of the disorder. Individualization of programming should be central to program design. Techniques for instruction should be considered as cognitive function varies widely in this population. And equipment choice should be dependent on individual anatomical and cognitive capabilities. Thus, free weights and aerobic machines may not be the best choice. And again, not just this population, but you always got to think about that with any individual of what they can and cannot do physically, or what they will and will not understand mentally. Um, and kind of find that sweet spot in there. And again, doesn't mean that their knowledge won't grow. Again, there's a lot of cognitive disorders where the person coming in still can learn things, and they're just not aware of how to do things at that time. And it's not that they permanently won't understand it either. So um, just treat everybody as, this is where they're starting. You progress them forward with the areas that you can progress them forward in, and just kind of see where they go. Okay. Exercise recommendations are summarized in Table 9. So again, light to moderate intensity, 30 to less than 60% VO2 max, 10 to 20 minutes sessions, arm leg cycling, rowing, aquatic exercises are recommended. They can strive to, as they progress, they can strive to meet the Department of Health and Human Service recommendations of at least 150 minutes of moderate intense, 40 to less than 60 VO2 aerobic exercise per week. In resistance training using machines or body weight should start with 1 to 2 sessions per week, one set 8 to 12 reps, and progress 2 to 4 sets with 1 to 2 minutes rest. Even with folks without cognitive disorders, a lot of times, really, especially if you're only meeting with them like a few times a week, and say they're going to exercise on their own, I always tell trainers, I'm like, get them on the machines first, and a lot of times they're like, yeah, but I want them to see that they need me to help them with their squat and all that. And I'm like, that's great and all, but they're trying to reach a goal of losing weight or getting stronger, some combination of both. If you're not there every day with them this week and you give them homework, but you give them homework that they can't complete on their own, then what's the point? Right. But if the machines are simple enough, which most machines are, not to mention they usually have diagrams, and really they just need to know how to pick which machines they're doing for which days. So say you're doing upper body one day, lower body, or you're doing push pull, chest, and one day you're doing arm stuff. However you break it up for them, if you show them the machines are easily learnable and less risk of them doing something wrong and messing up. So, with most first clients that I would get that are newbies to exercise, that's where I start them, just so that they're not 100% dependent on me to be there with them while they do things. Now, as we progress, I start to teach them more complex movements with free weights and body weight and things things of that nature. That way that they have a greater repertoire of things that they can reach into their tool bag to do. And again, for a while, I'll kind of program like, I'll tell them, like, okay, days you're not here, I want you doing these like 8 exercises or 12 exercises, whatever I give them. And then I start giving them options as they get better and better at things. I'm like, all right, so tomorrow's leg day. Here's the ones I'd like to see you do. What other ones do you want to pick? And tell me what part of the leg they're gonna work, right? So again, it's always teaching. You're always teaching them. Your goal as a personal trainer, and I know this goes against the whole sales ship of most personal trainers, because their goal is to get people and keep them for life, but it's really a poor business model, because eventually they're going to quit on you. And if you make it hard for them to quit, they're going to, not have very good things to say about you. Um, but if you equip them to take good care of themselves, so if you think of yourself as like a teacher, professor of like how to take care of their body, they're going to graduate. They're going to move on. The thing is they're also going to see great results because you've taught them so much, and they're going to have great knowledge. They're going to talk with their family and friends about what they know, what they learned. They're going to get them interested. Those family and friends are going to say, hey, I think need to go start with a trainer. And they're going to say, hey, you need to go talk to my trainer. That's really a better sales model, because what you're doing is you're putting their needs first. And when you do that, you're not ever going to go wrong with that type of mentality as a salesperson. Putting the needs of your customer first will always get you more sales. And word of mouth is always the greatest marketing tool that a trainer has. I know on Instagram, it's more of like, you got to have fit in your name, and you better have some pictures you took when you were at your absolute best, like, you diet, you sat there and did the whole bodybuilding diet, and didn't eat for like 3 weeks when you got all your pictures taken type thing, and you keep posting and reposting those pictures for the next like year until you decide to do it again so you can update some pictures. No, that's not what it is, because again, most of those folks, they can sacrifice just enough to look good for a short amount of time, but that's not what people want either. Unless you're into bodybuilding, most people want to be like, well, I don't, looking that rich would be cool, but I just want to look, like really good, but not that jacked. And I'd like to be able to kind of look that way all the time. I don't want to go through this like build up and then cut down and then build. Most people, that's not what they're looking for. They don't want to look good at certain times of the year. They just want to be fit and healthy year round, right? So that's what we're trying to teach them. It's not about these fitness personalities you see on Instagram and Facebook that they know how to get looking good for about a month out of a 12-month year. And they go through these cycles of doing that every year, and they take pictures, and then you notice that they're like, okay, how come they keep reposting all these pictures from then? That's why, right? It's ridiculous. So autism spectrum disorder, characterized by deficits in social communication, social interaction, restrictive repetitive behaviors, interest in activities, including sensitivity to sensory stimuli, of all kinds, stereotype behaviors such as body rocking, obsession with an object or topic of interest, and an instance of sameness, insistence on sameness, sorry. It's the fastest growing disability in the US, although it is unclear whether it is due to increased prevalence or broader diagnostic. I'm going to give you almost 100%. I think it has to do with the second. I think it was such an unknown disorder, especially when I was growing up. Unless you were on the far end of the spectrum, I don't think a lot of it was really picked up. It's and again, that's the thing. There's so many folks that are what they term like high functioning autism, where you know, they can have jobs, they can carry on pretty much normal relationships. All those things, like unless they tell you, you may not even know that they have autism. I don't think they really had the spectrum well established for many years. I think as they know more and more, and they see, like even in folks that have very little signs of it, like they have some similarities, throughout the spectrum. And they're like, okay, so these people have it, but, they're not, like really incapacitated in trying to live in society versus some other folks, right? Some other folks have a really, really tough time with the, with the things in their environments and so on and so forth. So I would think that it's more of a growing disability because we can actually understand it better, as the disorder's been studied more and people understand it. It would be probably, again, it's, this is my opinion. I'm sure maybe there are some genetic things that are going on with, maybe, who knows, maybe folks that have, behavior patterns, and like that lead to certain things, and then when they have kids, or I have, could be some things in there too. But I think it's more that we we've grown the spectrum and understand the spectrum. And again, it really is, like they said, it's very broad. I know some folks with autism that have, they're nonverbal, or, little things can kind of set them off into, like where they kind of retreat into their little space that they have. And it takes a lot to get them to calm down and get back, where they're okay. I've met some folks that, like I said, I mean, unless, they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been diagnosed with autism. You're like, really? I didn't know that. And so, and you got everything in between. So again, it really is. Um, it's a very broad spectrum, like they said. 4 conditions under autism spectrum disorder: pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified; childhood disintegrative disorder, Asperger's syndrome, and classical autism. It's usually diagnosed in the first 14 months to 3 years of life. And again, I think about like my generation. I don't know that that was something that they really looked at when we were kids. Unless you were displaying very severe, behavioral issues due to certain things in your environment, I don't think they really looked at it. Because again, there was only, if you look at, like when I was growing up, there was 2 kids around my age that were diagnosed with autism that I went to school with. There was probably much more than that actually could have been diagnosed. The non I always forget this one. Pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified. So the not otherwise specified is the most difficult to diagnose. Again, it's because it's the it's the one that can have, you can be kind of fully, like almost fully functioning, but you have this issue or you have that issue, or whatever it is. And so it's a little bit harder to figure out in people, right? A lot of times it goes undiagnosed for years, and so on and so forth. CDD is characterized by loss of previously acquired language, social skills, and various motor skills. Asperger's is primarily social, but with average to above average cognitive function. And classical autism shows a range of severity from low to high functioning. Core deficiencies of autism spectrum disorder include impairments in communication, social interactions, and engagement and repetition, stereotypic behaviors. Outbursts can occur due to frustrations from problems with communication or unexpected changes in the environment. Children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorder are more susceptible to trend of decreasing physical activity with increasing age due to shortage of programs tailored to their needs, and the common practice of preoccupying them with movies, TV, or other media. So again, if you have a person with autism that maybe lighting sets them, I don't know if sets them off is really the best term, but it's just lack of a better way to really, like when you see someone have, like an episode or so on, lighting can trigger episodes. Noises can trigger episodes. Amount of people, proximity of people, things like that can all trigger that. Gyms can be a very triggering place. So, bringing them into gyms with the type of lighting, the music, the people, and all that can be difficult with some folks on the spectrum. Again, going outside, running on a track or something may be better for some folks, but then again, the lighting, or if any, like if it's near a street with car noise, it's difficult, right? And so this is why these are some of the problems we run into, because the caretakers, you think of like parents, or if they have hired caretakers, a lot of times, they're just like, I mean, their goals a lot of time is just to keep them calm, like not trigger them. And then the goal is not to necessarily further their quality of life from a physical perspective, right? And so the mentality of taking care of somebody, especially if they're very severely, like severely autistic in some of the ways that they can trigger easy, and things like that, it becomes, more of a, keep them calm, keep them calm, keep them calm, don't let anything disrupt them, type of mentality, rather than let's try to see what we can explore to benefit them physically and mentally. Because again, we know that physical exercise can also help with some cognitive improvements as well. So, a lot of times it's best to, have a different approach, and more of a, kind of a test, you know, a testing approach to see, like what they can do, where they can do things that they like to do, and all that. No medication functions to treat the disorder or treat the primary symptoms, but some can help related symptoms such as managing high energy levels, inability to focus, depression, seizures. Two main categories of medications. So we're back to the SSRIs and antipsychotic agents. SSRI side effects, again, are insomnia, increased agitation, weight gain. Antipsychotic can have side effects such as sleepiness, tremors, and weight gain. Benefits of exercise seem to be no different than folks that don't have autism. Again, increased cardio, increased lean body mass, decreased adiposity, weight control, increased strength, increased balance, coordination, decreased risk of musculoskeletal injury, increased cognitive function, decreased risk factors for cardio disease. Again, most beneficial may be a decrease in repetitive behaviors that results in increased academic engagement with the dose response relationship. So again, exercise without a doubt is always good. It just may be more difficult with some folks with autism than others. So again, exercise considerations, the environment, including decorations, clothing should be neutral to avoid overstimulation. Again, this is where it's hard. So, if you're going to try to, and again, you could have, if you're going to work with specialized populations, a really noble cause would be is if you wanted to create a workout environment solely designed to meet the needs of autistic kids or adults, or a combination of both. It'd be great. In big cities you probably would have quite a bit of clients. It's kind of a niche type of workout environment, but much needed. Maybe you'd even be able to find some grants to help fund that type of project. And again, it'd be worthwhile, I think. Verbal communication should be relatively flat without sarcasm or jargon. Again, some folks on the spectrum, when you talk to them, because of their social, I don't know, social inadequacy would be the correct term, but along those lines, they don't understand. Um, they don't understand joking or sarcasm. They take things more literal. Um, and again, jargon can be confusing as well. So, in the gym, if we have jargon talk, you need to explain to them common phrases, if they're able to process that. So that if you want to use those common phrases, they know exactly what you're talking about. Again, it's better just to be exact in telling them and directing them what you'd like them to do. Rest periods can be longer, 2 to 3 minutes, to avoid increased physiological stress. Again, sometimes the physical stress can cause them to have episodes, just because their body's being stressed. They feel weird things. They don't know what's going on, right? So sometimes they can't process that, that it's, hey, this is normal. Exercise in general should include a variety of activities that are individualized for each client. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder that results, before we get into that, again, I know some folks are gonna be like, well, why didn't you touch on, immunization and autism. There's zero evidence that shows that immunization causes autism. I know there are people out there that really believe that because, again, their kid, like it said, it says that it can, like you can start noticing things at certain ages, or you can see like a kid that seems normal and then something deteriorates at some moment. And they're not really sure why. They think that there's something that, like, the genes, something will trigger in the gene at some point, and it's just, it's almost like, like if you look at type 1 diabetics, sometimes, there's no evidence that they're type 1 diabetic for several, like for several years, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. And again, it's completely genetic. I believe that autism, from what I've seen in the literature, is probably 100% genetic. Again, it's not been 100% confirmed, so I'm not going to say that for sure. But there is zero evidence that vaccinating your kids is going to make them autistic. It's just, a lot of times, moms and dads, they'll be like, well, the last thing, they try to look for something that that caused it, and be like, well, they got a vaccination like a month ago, or they got vaccinations like 3 months ago. And, like before that, I don't remember them doing, or even in between that time, I don't remember anything else happening. So it must be that. Right. So it's a, trying to make sense out of a situation that they can't make sense out of, but not using any scientific rationale whatsoever. It's just, that's the last major event that our kid had, therefore, or that we can think of, therefore that must be it. Right. Again, Down syndrome's just genetic disorder that was result of 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. Physical characteristics are distinct facial look and growth delays. Intellectual abilities are typically lower than the average. IQ has been increasing in the last few years. I think that has to do with the fact that we as a society have realized the great benefits that those with Down syndrome can play in our society. And I think there's been a lot more effort in caring for these individuals, educating these individuals. I really do think that's it. And I think that we haven't tapped their full potential, because for so long it's just been, we just got to care for them. We just got to care for them. We just got to care for them, not really treating them as much of human beings as they deserve. And I think in recent years, we've seen like a great outreach of, even, like a lot more down folks with Down syndrome have full-time jobs. They live on their own. Their ability to be free of full-time care and all those things, I think, amazes folks. And as we learn how to educate them better, as we learn how to create less dependency and give them more freedom, you'll see this population do more. And again, I've been privileged to work with many folks with Down syndrome in many different capacities and job capacities, and working with Special Olympics. I grew up with a kid that had it. Be honest, my personal opinion, every one of the people I've come across that has been Down syndrome has been some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Incredibly nice. One of the guys I grew up with, he's incredibly strong. He was in our weight training class, and he was so much fun. So again, I really, this is another group that I'd really challenge those of you that have a heart for this group. They're a fun group to work with. They will surprise you in so many ways positively. So please think about working in programs with these groups, especially in physical activity and stuff, because again, they're one that is very underserved when it comes to physical activity. The only known risk factors for having a child with Down syndrome are older age of the mother. So again, usually older moms have a higher risk of having a child with Down syndrome, and those that are heavy smokers. Besides physical appearance, individuals with Down syndrome may have difficulties learning motor patterns, lack some social self-care skills, although the wide variety of symptom severity influences these issues. There's also generalized muscle weakness, poor cardiovascular fitness, impaired coordination, and poor exercise economy. There are some things sometimes they notice with the cardiovascular that you got to be wary of. Now, in my experience with working with them, physical strength doesn't tend to be one, but again, a lot of the literature says it's there. I just personal anecdotal evidence that I've seen, I haven't come across that yet. Because of association with other conditions, including mental health, dementia, epilepsy, some medications and nutritional supplements have been tested, but nothing proven conclusively beneficial. Structured training programs have been shown to improve leg strength, functional performance, stair climbing, for example, as well as improve peak VO2. Walking, jogging recommended improve efficiency and independence, but dancing, swimming, water aerobics, especially to music, are proven to be effective and motivating, although sensitivity to noise in some individuals should be considered. Shorter bouts with associated rewards may also be effective. During resistance training, longer rest periods may be necessary to encourage recovery. Low exercise economy may necessitate modification of intensity, and teaching proper form may take more time than normal. To be honest, the two things I've noticed, the few I've worked with a couple gentlemen. I did notice that their cardio was very, like, they got tired quick. So we used to focus a lot on power movements or like strength movements and things like that. Just because they'll give you a lot really quick, but they tire. And again, I've heard, reading in some literature that seems to be a common theme now. Some of the mechanisms are for that are argued. A lot of them have heart issues, but again, by the time you work with them as adults, if they've been sedentary for a while, that could be a contributing factor, or it could be some genetic things that come with the chromosomes. There's some theories on both, or maybe a combination. Again, the teaching proper form may take more time than normal. I've got folks that aren't diagnosed with anything that sometimes teaching proper form takes more time than normal. So again, I had I say kid, he was not much younger than me when I was working. I got him squatting like a champ, and it didn't really take that long. In all honesty, you just got to be creative with your cueing. Like you do with anybody else. You just got to if you can understand your client, and you can get them to understand you, you'd be amazed at what they're able to do. Intellectual disability is general deficit of cognitive ability as a result of a variety of different sources, including Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, genetic conditions such as Credit-Chat or Prader-Willi syndrome, infections, birth defects, asphyxia during birth, so lack of oxygen, metabolic conditions. Medications are not prescribed to improve the disability. They need to be personalized to the individual. However, medical clearance and knowledge of any medication is important for the exercise professional. Exercise has benefits on this population similar to the general population, and any physical benefits will have positive effects on quality of life and independence, but few controlled studies have looked at different etiologies. Like general pop, research shows that exercise has temporary but positive effects on cognitive abilities, and exercise prescription will be similar to general, apparently healthy population, right? Exercise should be prescribed based on the physical and cognitive abilities of each individual, and a longer time period allowed for learning new motor patterns. Again, you're going to have some folks that are, they aren't diagnosed with cognitive disabilities. They and again, they seem like regular folks or whatever. And as far as, they don't have any deficiencies. And you're gonna have some folks that are gonna struggle with learning new motor patterns. I mean, and you're gonna have some other folks that pick it up quickly, and you'll have some folks in these categories that actually will pick things up quickly. Again, like I said, if you can understand them and their way of thinking, because you have good conversations with the individuals, you'll learn what learning pattern helps them best. Again, some of them are very visual learners, so the more times that you speak through the motions while you're performing them from different angles so that they can see them, they may pick it up really quick. I mean, faster than some of your quote unquote not mentally or intellectually disabled clients. Dementia and Alzheimer's. Dementia is an umbrella term that describes a collection of symptoms related to loss of memory, brain function that interferes with daily life. It can be caused by a number of disorders affecting the brain, including Alzheimer's, Huntington's, Parkinson's, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and vascular stroke. Alzheimer's is one type of dementia and differs from dementia. The Alzheimer's disease is progressive and degenerative, whereas dementia may be more static or even reversible. Symptoms include significant impaired intellectual functioning that interferes with normal activities, social relationships, which may eventually lead to loss of the ability to solve both simple and complex problems. It can occur in younger individuals, but disease usually begins after the age of 60. Risk factors are not well known, but may include genetic predispositions, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, history of diabetes. I've seen some literature looking at, fitness levels and things like that, and they think maybe exercise activity throughout your lifespan may have a protective effect against it as well. So just some food for thought. And when you're talking with folks and some of the benefits of, again, we know exercise has a lot of positive benefits on the brain. So if those protective effects do hold true, another good reason to be exercising, besides all the other, hundreds to thousands of benefits that, we know and don't know. Alzheimer's is thought to be associated with neural degradation due to the buildup of proteins by amyloid plaques between neurons, which are normally broken down in neurofibrillary tangles within the neurons. Exercise can improve dementia or slow its progress, as well as possibly benefit cognitive function. In general, exercise can improve brain structure and function through improvements in vascular health. Medications. So cholinesterase inhibitors for memory loss, confusion, reasoning problems, delay symptoms for 1.5 years of people. Side effects include nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite. Memantine is prescribed for moderate to severe Alzheimer's for the symptoms related to memory, reasoning, attention, and performance of simple tasks. Again, headache, confusion, and dizziness. With higher functioning individuals, improvements due to exercise may occur in executive function, memory, cognitive function, and rating of function status, but with lower functioning individuals, few if any changes may be detected. Improvements in cardio, fitness, muscular strength, balance, and other determinants of functional independence can be expected. Although recommendations for individuals with mild dementia will be similar to general POP, with deterioration, cognitive and physical capabilities, exercise prescription will have to be modified significantly, including accommodations for wheelchairs or walkers. Again, just be prepared to handle any situation. Like they said, anger, outburst, aggression, with understanding that you got to understand, a lot of times they feel like they're trapped in their own mind, because there's like, they know that they should know something, but they don't know it. And that's frustrating, and so, you don't take it personally. You just got to understand it's frustrating, and they're not frustrated with you. They're frustrated with themselves. They're frustrated with their situation, and you just take things a day at a time. Always, just be as positive as you can, be as helpful as you can. Repetition of instruction, reintroduction to the client each day may be required due to memory loss. So maybe like 50 first dates type of thing. Again, these can be very challenging populations to work with, but also very rewarding populations to work with. And I would challenge any of you that are, feel like you have a heart for working with any of those populations, to really think of what an amazing gift it would be to really help those populations out. And I know people that are in those populations and people that care for people in those populations, are much desiring more programs. They really want more programs. And by you finding ways to create sustainable businesses for yourself that serve people like that, would create very rewarding careers. Okay. All right. See you in the next chapter.